Am I the a-hole for telling my ex he can figure out his own damn gifts for his own kids and stop expecting free stuff from me? I found out my ex was having an affair 5 years ago. He left me for the other woman, who he now has 3 kids with. We have 2 together. Our daughter is 10 and our son is 8. At first, I did my best to try and put things in the past and think of the kids by being considerate when it came to their siblings. And then they started expecting me to send more and more. I'm talking not just something for Christmas or birthdays, but Easter and whenever I get my kids something big just because. It was also the expectation that I would take them on fun trips with my kids, that I would have them in my home. And I just can't. I hate my ex. I hate his wife, and I don't love their kids, even as my kids' siblings. I don't hate them, but I also don't want to be part of their lives. Might sound terrible, but I just can't. Even with them being cute babies and toddlers, there is just too much that went on with me and my ex and his affair partner that I can't deal. Now, ex is claiming that this is hurting the kids. I'm a spiteful witch, that I owe it to our kids to be a better person, etc. And that it made the kids days to have gifts from someone other than mom and dad, since his wife is a former foster kid and he was disowned by his family for cheating. They're very religious and do not approve of divorce or any kind of cheating, and I can confirm they were disgusted by his actions. So the kids only have them. Ex was never a person who had a lot of friends, and definitely not someone who would buy gifts for the kids. The kids never really got into buying the gifts, which could be due to Ex only having 1 weekend a month due to his work schedule. But yeah, I guess part of me does feel bad because of the kids. The other part of me just really resents being in this position and being taken advantage of by my ex and his wife. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Ironic that a man who had an affair left you for the mistress is telling you to be the better person. Well, he knew he wasn't capable of being it. Not the a-hole. You do not owe your ex's kids gifts. Unfortunately, the expectation has already been set up with them, but they'll get over it. Don't let yourself be guilted. They definitely would. All his kids are under 5, so we'll probably forget eventually. I can still feel a bit guilty, but it's not a thing I want to keep doing forever. Not the a-hole. He thinks you owe it to the kids to be a better person? What does he owe to the kids then? Not the a-hole. What about not having a home-wrecking father? He owed that to his first kids. Not the a-hole. He is latched onto you like a leech. Salt won't work here, but he needs to get shut down hard. The cohesion of his family is his business, not yours. Good luck. He sounds very tiring, but you are absolutely right. Next story. Am I the a-hole for calling my bio dad a stranger? Long story, hope it makes sense. I, 27 female, spoke to my bio dad, 50s male, a while back, and he said he wanted me to have his last name. In the past, this man claimed my mother was a loose woman and that I wasn't his child. He would even tell me this when I was little and was visiting him. So I told him I didn't think I wanted to do that because of said history, and he made it off like it should be an honor, and that he's ready to claim me as his own. Fast forward, I get a call from his sister. She asked if I could go to court and tell a judge that my bio dad is my dad, so that it would be easier for him to get a green card. I said I'd only do it if he was going to bring my siblings over too, but I wanted to wait. Well, they moved on and tried to find another way to bring him into the country. Eventually, I spoke to his family about what happened and mentioned that he doesn't know me. He's never acknowledged my birthdays or helped my mother financially. She had to bust her bum to give me what I needed, and luckily, what I wanted. He'd only call, but with years between phone calls, visits only happened because my mom would save up to send me on vacation during school break to see her sister. And every chance I had to spend time with him, he would get drunk and just rant about how my mother is loose. I also mentioned that I tried to confront him about this, and how much pain it cost me, only for him to deny it ever happened. He might have been too drunk to remember. Anyways, once my rant was over, I topped it off with threatening to file for child support on my mother's behalf if I did help him get a green card. I said he's a stranger and has a big sense of entitlement. Well, his family didn't like that at all. They said I needed to forgive him and to let him into my life because he's my dad, and always will be. My siblings are very offended, and some of our cousins have been rude about it too. They're acting like I'm being disrespectful. I don't think I said it in a rude way, but with conviction. Am I the a-hole? Edit. This post has me shaking in my boots down memory lane. I should have clarified some things. He is currently sober, and his sister was going to cover all the expenses, including a lawyer. I'm not too sure what the process is, but I was told I could have helped the process to get a green card go a lot faster. He tried to find another way to get into the country, so I'm sure he can keep trying. I just needed time to process their request, and I only considered it for my siblings' sake. As for the child support, I felt like my mom would be entitled to some kind of compensation. I don't even know if I could file for it. She paid for a lot of medical bills insurance wouldn't cover when I was growing up, so shouldn't they try to help? She never asked anyone for a dime when I had a surgery. Never even shared about the financial pressure she was under until much later, and that made my heart hurt for her. I don't believe my mother is a loose woman. I think she chose to leave an unsafe/unhealthy situation. She became a citizen in another country, learned to write/read/speak another language, and became an independent woman who lived kinda comfortably. I also think this embarrassed them, so they slandered her. Most women stay no matter what in their town. And what makes me laugh is that my mother never spoke a word about him unless I had questions. Thank you. You guys helped me realize that this guilt isn't mine to bear, and gave me the confidence to start putting some boundaries up or cut them out. I'm more than happy to forgive them for being human. I just don't want them in my life, and that's okay. I decided that today, actually. Bless you all with whatever good vibes you believe in. Not today, Hull. Just sounds like they want to use you to get him a green card. Exactly this. And he'll disappear when you're not of use to him anymore. Until he needs a kidney. Not today, Hull. He is a stranger as he's not been father. End of story. I forget what comedian it is, so I can't give them credit or direct to a YouTube link, but he's got a bit about how if you refer to your dad as your bio dad and not just dad, it really tells you all you need to know about that relationship. Not today, Hull. If he hasn't acknowledged you over the years and suddenly wants you to have his last name, then he is the a-hole. Not today, Hull. Providing seed does not make someone a dad. You owe him nothing. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad that I wouldn't need to use my magical child of divorce powers if he didn't F up in the first place? Some background. My female 17 mom and dad separated when I was 6, and he married to Maggie when I was 8. Since then, they've had 3 kids together who I absolutely adore. Even though we're only half siblings, they all tie for the #1 spot on my list of favorite people, and we're pretty close. Plus, my dad is currently going through his 3rd marriage as he was married once before my mom. My dad told me a few days ago that he and Maggie are getting divorced for reasons I'd rather not explicitly disclose, but in general, they're both at fault. He is currently staying at my grandparents' house. It has been for about 2 weeks, but my siblings think he's away on business. He really wants to see us, so he asked me to come down and I agreed. However, when he told them, they did not take it well. At all. And while I'm not really surprised at their reaction, from the way it was described to me, I don't think he really helped. From what I understand, Maggie and him sat them down. My dad appeared virtually, told them they were getting a divorce, refused to answer any questions as to why, except for them saying that they don't love each other anymore and they haven't for a while now. They told them that there was nothing more they could do for each other and that they were sick of trying. My siblings flipped out and apparently haven't even been speaking with my stepmother since she told them. Now, when my dad told me this, he said that while he wanted to spend time with me this weekend, he needed me to patch up the kids and use my experience as a child of divorce. I told him I wasn't a therapist, and that while I'm more than happy to help, I can't promise that they're gonna want to talk to them because they have a right to be upset. He said that they were just overreacting, and that they're gonna have to grow up and get used to it because witching about it isn't going to change anything. At this point, I just straight up told him that if some people could keep it in their pants, maybe we wouldn't be here. He said that was unfair, and that he was my father, and that I had no right to talk to him like that. I responded that he had no right to tell my siblings, or anybody, how to feel, and that I hoped for the next marriage he might get it together. He hung up. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. You were 17 years old, and you were right with everything. 1, you are not a therapist. 2, you and your siblings don't ask to be born. 3, you and your siblings has a right to be upset. But for your sake, don't let you used by them. It is their responsibility to bring their stuff together, not yours. Would probably be nice if Opie to speak to her siblings as a child of a divorce and tell them that they'll get through it. Everything else is on Opie's dad and Maggie. You'd think by now Opie's dad would be more practiced at divorce announcements. But hearing this too will pass and they'll survive, if worse for the wear, from someone they like, trust, and who isn't currently engaged in breaking that trust may be helpful to them. Lord knows these kids can't rely on their parents. Not an a-hole. You're absolutely not your half-sibling's therapist, and your dad is asking you to handle them for him because otherwise, he'd have to address how he screwed up here and actually parent. Good on you for recognizing it and telling him no. Honestly, if this is his third time divorcing, you would think he'd have learned what not to do by now. Nah, he just figures the next one will be pliant and submissive enough to do whatever he wants. Not a day-hole, by the way. Not a day-hole. I wish I could buy you a beer for such an epic response. Not a day-hole. It's his and Maggie's responsibility to arrange for therapy for the kids, not to guilt you into playing that role instead. Divorce can have a huge impact on younger kids, and it sounds like he's taking this far more lightly than his kids are. Calling Dad out may have been unnecessary, but Dad was being completely unreasonable and sounds like he could use the wake-up call. That being said, your dad's hostility on the matter, if unusual, could be a sign that he feels a reasonable amount of guilt for what his kids are going through. If so, he's coming from a place of many emotions and may not be at his most reasonable right now. Nonetheless, asking you to do the job of a trained mental health professional is inappropriate, and you were right to decline. Now, for the last story, am I the a-hole for telling my grown son why he didn't grow up with his father's surname? I, 44 female, was in a toxic relationship. My ex, Joe, 49 male, met me when I was 15, and we started dating when I was 18. My mom was against the relationship, and I moved in with him at 19, because I thought that since mom was never married, she didn't know what she was talking about. I won't go into more details, but eventually I wised up, reconciled with my mom, and moved away. Not that Joe made it easy. I later met my other ex, Eric, 45 male, and I told him about Joe, and said that he might reach out to him. I warned him that Joe was a liar and just a terrible person. Fast forward to me being 7 months pregnant with our son AJ, 20 male. This was my first pregnancy, and I was very nervous because it wasn't planned. I was worried that Eric would leave me after the baby was born, and constantly ask him to reassure me that no matter what happened, he'd still be here. Eric always did until one day he didn't, and I started noticing that he was becoming distant. Eventually, he told me that Joe reached out to him and showed him pictures of him engaging in adult acts with a woman, and said that it was me and that he was my baby's father. You can't identify who the woman is, so Eric brushed it off at first, but then he thought about how I was always getting him to promise me that no matter what happened, he would never leave me, and now he had doubt. I told him the reasons why I needed to hear him say it'd stay, reminded him how crazy Joe was, and even got others to back up my story, and told him that I don't even want to talk to Joe, let alone be near him. Eric said that he understood, but to ease his mind, he wanted a DNA test. I was upset and very insulted, and asked what or if I ever did anything to make him believe that I was a cheater. Eric admitted that I never gave him a reason, so I said that there would be no test. We got into a fight, and Eric said that he refused to sign the birth certificate until a DNA test was done. I was hurt and moved out. I didn't talk to him and gave birth with my mom by my side. We took the test, and Eric was the father. He tried to apologize, but I didn't want to hear it. I would never deny access to our son, but I felt like he wasn't reliable, so I gave our son my surname so that in case Eric left him, then my son wouldn't have to deal with his own name being a reminder of the father who might abandon him. Now that AJ is a legal adult, he said he was interested in taking Eric's surname, and I was fine with that. But he asked me why he never had his dad's name in the first place. It wasn't the first time he asked, but I always brushed it off before. However, now that he was an adult, I told him the truth. AJ confronted his dad, and now he's not speaking to him at the moment. I didn't intend to cause a rift, and felt like my son would be bothered by it because it was more about us than him. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add. Keep seeing it, so I'm going to say it here and instead of each comment. 1. Yes, I told AJ the whole truth and didn't twist details in my favor. I told him that his father had doubts after seeing pictures. I felt hurt and wasn't sure if I could trust his father to stick around. I admitted to him that it was mostly issues I had, but was also hurt that Eric would trust someone who hurt me instead of me, despite admitting that I never gave him a reason to not trust me. 2. After my son was born, I developed postpartum and I got therapy not too long after giving birth, and have worked out a lot of my issues now that I'm a more mature adult. 3. Yes, despite my fears, Eric did stick around. And up until now, AJ and him have had a great relationship, which is why I feel guilt now. 4. I refused to hyphenate because, again, I thought Eric would leave and didn't want his name attached to our son if he did. 5. No, Eric never pushed to change the name, probably because he felt too ashamed after the test confirmed that I was telling the truth, but his side of the family would bring it up a couple of times. Not Dayhall. He's a grown man. He's old enough to know the truth. Not Dayhall. You were not married to Eric, and you never knew what kind of father he would turn out to be. You knew you were going to be a constant in your son's life, and it was in his and your best interest to give him your last name. Too many women give their children, who were born out of wedlock, no judgment, the last name of the father and then are tied, by name, to a man who doesn't participate in raising them. And that's what I was worried about. I've seen both sides of the situation for people growing up without their fathers, and those who didn't have their surname seemed to have an easier time than the ones who did. Not Dayhall. He believed your abuser over you, effectively letting your known abuser use him to further his mistreatment on you. Dude's an accomplice to his act.
Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my sister with childcare after her son bullied mine? I, 28 female, have a 4-year-old son, Max, with my husband, Tom, 29 male. Max was born with cerebral palsy and requires certain accommodations. His main two are crutches for walking and his AAC device. An AAC is an iPad/tablet-like device that lets him tap pictures or icons to communicate. Just because he can't physically form words doesn't mean he doesn't have meaningful thoughts. He communicates just like any other 4-year-old and loves talking about typical kid stuff. My sister, 30 female, has 2 kids, James 10 male and Lucy 6 female. Jane is a single parent and works longer hours than Tom and I. To help her out, James and Lucy take the bus to our house every day. We feed them dinner, ensure they do their homework, and take care of them until Jane picks them up between 7 to 8 p.m. On Wednesday night, the kids were playing as usual when we noticed James start mimicking the way Max walks and talks. He exaggeratedly walked with a limp and made strange sounds, clearly imitating Max. Tom immediately told him to stop. However, James kept doing it, and Lucy laughed along. Max became visibly upset. Tom called them both out of the family room and scolded them firmly but without yelling. James got very quiet and sat at the table until Jane arrived to pick them up. The next day, Thursday, James did it again. When I asked him why, he said, "My mom told me it's okay." I was furious. I told him to sit at a table for the rest of the evening. When Jane came to pick them up, Tom and I took her aside to talk. She said she didn't see what the big deal was and claimed James was just joking. I told her ableism is never funny and that if her child couldn't behave appropriately, he wouldn't be welcome anymore. Jane responded by saying I was being overprotective and that Max would have to learn to deal with people being mean to him because it's inevitable. I told her my 4-year-old deserved to feel safe in his own home and I wouldn't tolerate this behavior. Jane got upset, took her kids, and left. The next morning, I called the school and told them not to send James and Lucy to my house on a bus anymore. The school has an after-school program that runs until 7 p.m., but it costs money. When Jane came to my house that evening to pick up the kids, I informed her they were at the school program. She panicked and rushed to get them. This morning, I woke up to a barrage of angry texts from Jane, accusing me of being cruel and unreasonable. She was especially upset when I reminded her she'd now have to pay for childcare. When Jane realized the financial impact, she shifted her tone and tried apologizing, claiming she'd talk to James about his behavior. I told her it was too late. The damage was done, and her kids were no longer welcome at my house. Jane argued that she couldn't afford the child care costs and might have to find another job. I told her that wasn't my problem. Now she's even angrier, and I'm questioning whether I handled the situation correctly. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your sister and nephew both faced the natural consequences of their actions. You have a duty to protect your child. On the first night, you corrected the behavior with the children. Then your sister undermined your authority in your own home. She has become too comfortable with you essentially co-parenting her children and feels entitled to co-parent your child. She doesn't feel bad that your son was hurt by her son's actions. Instead, she's encouraging her son to act out because she disagrees with your parenting style. When you addressed the issue, she refused to acknowledge her responsibility. You told her to seek alternative childcare. Yes, the time frame was short, but child care programs can terminate care just as quickly in cases of misbehavior or other issues. She isn't remorseful for hurting her nephew. She's only upset that her actions had consequences. Exactly. You play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. Imagine thinking that it's okay to mock the disabled son of the person who is co-parenting your children and saving you thousands of dollars a year without taking a cent. The shocked Pikachu face when they stop helping you. Shaking my head. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. You're 100% right. Ensuring Max feels safe in his own home is the priority. Your sister has no genuine remorse for her actions or her children's. She only changed her tune when she realized it was going to cost her money. Family should be a safe place, and she has proven she doesn't deserve to be a part of Max's life. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to contribute money to my mom's family Christmas gift after finding out it's going to my brother? I, 25 female, have 2 siblings. My older brother Alex, 28 male, and my younger sister Lily, 19 female. My mom recently came up with an idea for a family Christmas gift that we would all chip in for. She told us it was something that would benefit everyone, but wouldn't reveal what it was. She just said she needed $500 from each of us by the end of the month. Now, $500 is a lot of money for me. I just started a new job, and I'm still trying to save up after struggling financially for a while. I told my mom I needed more details before I could commit, but she kept brushing me off, saying it was a surprise. A few days ago, I found out the truth. Lily let it slip that the family gift is actually a down payment on a new car for Alex. Apparently, his car broke down recently and he needs a replacement. My mom thought it would be a good idea for all of us to pitch in and get him something nice for Christmas. I was furious. Alex is 28, has a stable job, and makes way more money than I do. On top of that, my mom never asked any of us if we were okay with this. She just assumed we'd all go along with it. When I confronted her, she said it's only fair since Alex does a lot for the family and deserves it. I told her I wasn't contributing and that it was ridiculous to call this a family gift when it's only for Alex. She got upset and said I was being selfish and ungrateful. Alex chimed in saying I could afford it if I really cared and accused me of being jealous of him. Even Lily sided with them, saying it's not a big deal and that I'm ruining Christmas by making it an issue. Now my whole family is mad at me. They're calling me cheap and saying I'm being petty over something that's supposed to be a nice gesture. I feel bad for causing tension, but I also feel like I'm being taken advantage of. Not the a-hole. Your mom's bringing a $500 family gift on you without being upfront is really shady, especially since it's just for Alex's car. It's not your job to fund your own brother's problems, especially when he's better off financially than you. You have every right to say no since it's your money, and $500 is no joke. Them guilt-tripping you and calling you selfish isn't fair. You're not ruining Christmas. They're the ones making it so one-sided. Stand your ground. The fact that Alex piled on with such a condescending comment makes it clear this isn't a gift but a demand. He should be ashamed. Alex is not ashamed. He's the only son, no doubt the golden child. He's entitled beyond measure because that's how he was raised. I bet if Opie thought back to her childhood, she'd see plenty of times when Alex was favored. Mom knows Alex is better off financially than Opie. Yet, she still made this sneaky, underhanded, and unfair demand. That's why she was so evasive when questioned. If I were Opie, I'd seriously consider going no contact at this point. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad and his wife I won't take responsibility for my disabled stepsister's care in the future? My parents are divorced, and I, 17 male, mostly live with my mom. 5 years ago, my dad got married to Rebecca, and Rebecca and her daughter, Yasmin, moved in with my dad. Yasmin is 7 now and severely disabled. She can't talk or do things for herself. I don't know much about her condition overall because I never spent much time with Rebecca or Yasmin. However, I've learned some things over the past few years. I know Rebecca has a fund set aside for Yasmin's future care, and my dad has been paying into it. He's invested more into her future than he ever did into mine, which is a sore point for me, but I understand she needs it more. Yasmin's dad doesn't do anything for her, so my dad took on the role of ensuring she'd be cared for. The issue is that my dad and Rebecca are worried about what will happen to Yasmin when they die. If something happened to them tomorrow, the money is there for her care. But Yasmin's father doesn't care about her, and there's no other family to step in. This came up the other day when my dad asked me to spend the day with him. I agreed, and he invited me to his house for dinner. However, dinner didn't happen because they sat me down to ask if I would look after Yasmin and be a big brother to her when they're gone. They wanted me to take responsibility for her care, whether that meant overseeing her needs in a care home or even taking care of her myself if necessary. They told me Yasmin is my sister now, and even though we're not related by blood, she is family and needs me. I said no. I told them I wouldn't take responsibility for her. My dad told me I needed to do it for him and said he doesn't ask for much. I admit I snapped and told him he never gives me much, which he said was unfair and that I shouldn't punish Yasmin for it. He said I needed to step up and be a bigger man. Rebecca asked how I could be around her, sweet girl, and not want to protect her. I told them I've hardly been around Yasmin, don't feel a family bond or loyalty toward her, and they couldn't bully me into it. I left because they only got angrier. My dad has since called my mom's phone looking for me a couple of times. My mom told him he had no right to speak to me the way he did, and that I don't owe him the peace of mind of caring for his stepchild after he's gone. She really stood up for me. Now, my dad and Rebecca are saying I'm a heartless monster for saying no. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Yay for your mom. Tell your dad and stepmom that you will never be your stepsister's caretaker, and they can stop trying to bully you into it. In order to build a sense of family, a parent actually has to be involved in their kid's life. Your dad didn't bother, and your stepmom didn't either. Now they're wondering why you feel no sense of obligation or connection. Not the a-hole. Do you even need to ask? Your dad and stepmom are horrible for asking this of you in the first place, let alone trying to force you into agreeing. You're 17, still a minor. Even after you turn 18, your life is just starting. Taking responsibility for a disabled person is a huge commitment, and it's unfair for them to expect you to promise something like that. Your dad and stepmom are being selfish. They should be making plans for Yasmin's care in a good institution for after they're gone. I think that's the plan, but they want me to take charge and make sure everything's good. If it's not, they want me to step in and fix it. I really don't want that job. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not letting my brother's girlfriend stay in my guest room after she made a scene at dinner? So I, 30 female, live in a nice 2-bedroom apartment in the city. One of my bedrooms is a guest room, and my family often uses it when they come to visit. I'm close with my brother Alex, 27 male, and he recently started dating a woman, Jenna, 26 female. This weekend, Alex asked if he and Jenna could stay with me while they visited the city. I said yes, of course, because I wanted to meet her and Alex has always been respectful of my home. Things started off fine, but at dinner on the first night, Jenna made things awkward. We were eating at a nice Italian restaurant, and while we were waiting for our food, Jenna started talking about how people who rent instead of owning homes are financially irresponsible. I laughed it off at first, thinking it was a joke, but she doubled down, saying it was basically throwing money away every month. I calmly told her that I rent because I value the flexibility it gives me, especially since my job might require me to relocate in the next few years. She then said, well, maybe if you stopped spending so much money on eating out, you'd be able to afford a down payment. Alex looked mortified and told her to drop it, but she wouldn't. She went on to say that people like me are part of the reason the economy is so messed up, because we don't prioritize home ownership. I snapped back and told her she was being rude and condescending, and that my financial choices were none of her business. The rest of the dinner was tense, and when we got back to my apartment, I told Alex privately that I didn't feel comfortable having Jenna stay in my home anymore. He tried to apologize on her behalf, but I stood firm. I told him he was welcome to stay, but Jenna had to find another place. Jenna overheard and got upset, accusing me of being overly sensitive and dramatic. She said she didn't mean anything by her comments, and that I was taking things too personally. Alex ended up leaving with her, and now he's upset with me, saying I overreacted and put him in an awkward position. I feel bad for making Alex choose, but at the same time, I feel like Jenna disrespected me in my own home and doubled down when called out. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. If she didn't mean anything she said, she wouldn't have said it in the first place. She actually doubled down and blamed people like OP for the economic situation. Part of me thinks Jenna was feeling insecure or something. The way she attacked OP was not normal. The audacity of the girl. She probably doesn't have a pot to piss in and has the nerve to lecture you on your finances. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. I think Jenna was envious of OP's home and wanted to make OP feel bad. Some people hate to see other people having nice things. Last story. Am I the a-hole for canceling everyone's Christmas because my mom called the cops on my husband? Usually, my husband, 30 male, and I, 27 female, host Christmas Eve at our house. It's nothing big, just my divorced parents and my 3 teenage siblings. This year, we have a newborn and skipped Thanksgiving, but I've felt comfortable hosting Christmas. Until my mom called the cops on my husband a few weeks back. One of my sisters, 19 female, called me, crying, asking me to pick up our younger sister, 17 female, because she had just gotten into a fight with my mom, and my mom slapped her. Our newborn baby was sleeping, and we wanted to get the 17-year-old ASAP. So I stayed behind while my husband went to get both my sisters. My mom and my 17-year-old sister were at the laundromat. The altercation happened at home. When my husband walked up to their car and told my sister, let's go, my mom freaked out, caused a scene, and started yanking on the car door, telling him to let my sister out or she'd call the cops. At this point, my husband had locked the door and kept telling my mom he wasn't letting her out, that she needed space, and that he was bringing her back to our place. My mom walked away and told him to drive off. She could send the cops to my house if she wanted. I was on the phone with him. She called the cops and it backfired. The cops sided with us and agreed that the 17-year-old should have been removed from the situation and should stay with me for a few days. This enraged my mom. For some odd reason, she hates that my sisters and I are close. She has been telling them for years to keep secrets from me and not tell me what happens in her house, though they still do. She has called family meetings with my siblings just to say they need to stop running to me to vent. She says whatever happens in her house is none of my business. She treats me like I am some random outsider and not her literal daughter, and I'm tired of it. She tends to sweep everything under the rug. She never talks about issues and just continues as if she didn't hurt anyone's feelings. She also has a tendency to pull the, well, sorry, I am such a bad mom card or deflect and gaslight. A lot. After she called the cops and my husband with the intention of getting him in trouble, I am not letting her just sweep this under the rug and show up for Christmas like we are one big happy family. If she cannot come to us like an adult, apologize and have a mature conversation, She's not welcome in my home. So Christmas Eve is canceled. I'm also not going to raise my daughter around people who make her parents feel like crap. I'm not allowing her to see that people who are supposed to love you can treat you however they want just because they're family. Now, backstory on my mother. I have never considered us to be close. She put me through a lot as a child, and my teen years living with her sucked. She has serious narcissistic tendencies and seriously needs therapy, but I don't even trust her to be honest with a therapist. She's the type to make everyone else the bad guy and make herself look good. There are years and years of incidents with her, but this year I've really had it. However, I've put up with her because of my siblings. So anyways, am I the a-hole for canceling everyone's Christmas? Not the a-hole for uninviting your mom, but I think you should still host Christmas for the rest of the family, as it seems like your sisters and dad didn't do anything wrong. Plus, hosting Christmas while uninviting your mom would send a much stronger message. Or maybe I'm just a petty a-hole for suggesting this. Lol. The thing is, she's the type to not let my siblings come, or she'll make their lives hell for the next week or two. My siblings would be walking on eggshells until she decided she was over it. We're thinking of inviting the kids and my dad over for breakfast and gifts on Christmas Day instead of Christmas Eve, all night. I mean, you already found a great way to deal with her. Every time she throws a tantrum, you can pick your sisters up, or they can go to your place to chill. What's your mom going to do? Call the cops? Lol, fair about picking them up. It's just dropping them back off and putting them in a situation that's full of tension. I don't love the idea of that.